Today's topic is going to be about evolving plumbing and hydronic systems, both PEX and PERT. We are a manufacturer of both. So this presentation, you'll discover the evolution, as Trevor mentioned. You'll gain insight into the enhanced benefits of our PERT, polyethylene raised temperature, and you'll learn about its innovative features and applications. And hopefully this will leave you with some practical knowledge. On the far right, I'm not going to go through it, but that is sort of the table of contents. So we'll go through what PEX is, what PERT is, what's the benefits, the shift to this new technology, and go from there. All right, a little bit about CB Supplies. We've been around for this is our 62nd year. We're a family-owned business. The Lowe family purchased the company in 2012. We are a service-driven company. And that is our primary goal. If you ask anybody in our company, we are here to serve you, the customer, or the end user, the contractor. And we try to do that with our 4 facilities across Canada. We have our plant in Surrey, BC, 140,000 square foot facility. We have a branch in Calgary, which is 28,000 square feet. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Mississauga, we have 81,000 square feet, and our furthest east location is Bois de Fillon, Quebec, just north of Laval. And at each of those locations, we have our own customer service team, obviously our warehousing and picking team, and I'm proud to say our customer service team, we don't use voicemail anywhere. We want to make sure that we get in touch with you as soon as possible and make sure that your customers are satisfied. So we do offer our core markets are, I would say, from your perspective, is our plumbing and heating and HVAC. We also serve the municipal pool and spa filtration pump and well and irrigation, and that is related to our sister company that we own on the US, which you've probably heard of as American Granby. So we have that. As well as we do some OEM markets with our manufacturing of our tubing. So some of our main name brands is our Viper we'll talk about today. LinkPEX, that's relatively new. That's our tubing for water service for municipal. And we just released this last year our carbon press. We're calling it Mech Press. And Diamondback we released in 2021. That is our CSST for gas tubing. So PEX, we're probably mostly familiar with it, and PEX stands for cross-link polyethylene. It's just a flexible tubing, high temperature. If I could ask you to put your mute on there, whoever just joined. It's been around for 35 plus years, started in Europe like most of the new technology. And it can be used for potable use, for cold water, for hydronics. I think most of us are familiar with that. But once we dive into it a little bit more, you'll hear out in the industry in Canada, there's 3 different methods of making PEX. So there is the PEX A, or the peroxide method. That is using an additive peroxide while it's being extruded, a chemical reaction that gives it the cross-linking properties that makes the tubing strong. For us, we make our PEX B, and in some of the regions we're talking with right now, that's what you're buying from us in BC and a little bit in Alberta, and maybe a little bit we've been making that for 20 plus years. It is called the saline solution, is the most common one it does. And how it gets its structural strength in a secondary process is we put it in steam rooms. So when it is relaxed, the molecules join together and cross-link the PEX, giving it strength. And the last one, I mentioned it because it's there. If you look at PPI, the Plastic Pipe Institute, they have a kind of information on this, is the electric beam. And basically they irradiate the material that gives it its property, but it is not very cost effective because of the energy use. It's a little bit more flexible, but you don't have any manufacturers making that here. So in Canada and the US, predominantly you're going to see PEX A and PEX B. PEX A tends to carry a premium for price, and the PEX B is your sort of go-to. So the advantages when it was introduced over 35 years ago, it was going up against predominantly copper systems. Um, and what they found as they introduced this, it cut down the installation time. It also has a longer life. So it's easy to install for the contractor. In some cases, you don't need as many fittings because it is flexible. It it's easy to install. It's very corrosion resistant. I know you sell other plastic products. The benefit of plastics is it's inert to most chemicals and aggressive water conditions. There's obviously some limitations to that, but versus a mineral based metal, it performs much better and has a much longer life. So when you hear a lot of the stuff that's going around that there's issues with plastic, this material here lends itself to being much longer life than copper. So you have to build that into there, that when you're comparing against traditional systems, which we sell as well, that you're going to have to change out a traditional system plus all the environmental costs of having to dig up that copper from a mine, extract it, and all the chemicals that are used into that. So all those things have to be factored in the life cycle cost of your systems. It is very cost efficient. Uh, the resin tends to be quite a bit lower price than copper. Copper right now, I think you're going to find with copper, as we migrate more further into electrification, electric cars, the demand for copper is going up. So there's going to be a big stress on the mines that are out there, and they're certainly limiting the expansion of mines in the around the world. So copper comparisons are even going to get more cost prohibitive in the future. So the evolution, and this is the best way to describe it. If it's an evolution, and I'm going to show my age. When I was very young, the evolution of TVs. When we had our very first TV, it was black and white, and then we got a color TV, and then now we're into ultra high definition flat TVs. It's just an evolution. So PERT is basically just an evolution of PEX. It's the next generation. It's manufactured differently than PEX. And the benefits of it is it's in the resin. So when we extract it at the plant in Surrey, it comes out ready to go. We don't have to do any secondary processes. We don't have to introduce chemicals. We don't have to put it in a steam room. So from a manufacturing standpoint, we save some overall costs on the manufacturing side. The resin is a little bit more expensive, but that's just because of the process that goes into it. But at the end of the day, we have a superior product that competes with the PEX A's and the PEX B's, but has some real mechanical property advantages over the current PEX A and PEX B. So to manufacture PEX, I sort of already talked about this. You do have to put additives in there and blends to get the properties. And what that contributed to is when you compare it against PERT, it makes for a stiffer tube. I'm sure most of you have uncoiled your PEX tubing, you'll notice that it has a membrane once it come back to where it's at. It's very resistant to change. And that's just because of the molecular makeup of it. The difference in PERT is it doesn't have that same way of forming together. So it's made in it's called a bimodal method. It's actually chaining the material together, and when it's extruded, it's ready to go. It's not a cross-link process. The benefit of this, where we don't have any additives, it's the only product that is recyclable. It uses less energy to manufacture and contributes to a sustainable product, which we all benefit from. So the shift from PEX to PERT, I've sort of covered a little bit about it, but one of the big benefits to PERT is it does provide higher temperature tolerances, pressure resistance, and makes it ideal for maybe a broader range of your applications. Although it's pretty well in the same realm as PEX, but one of the myth busters is that we see in the market is a lot of times that PERT will be thrown under the bus because it's a relatively new product. It's been in the market for 30 years in Europe, but in North America, it's been since we introduced it in 2006 or 2016. Sorry. Yeah. Um, and I want to bring up to the forward thinking investment addressing demands for modern plumbing systems. if you're a government or a company, the PERT really lends itself well into your green initiatives for changing environments. We're all getting more into the mission statements as far as sustainability and being more green friendly. This product here can contribute to LEED certified green buildings, all those things, because it does have a smaller footprint. And like I said, I already said it has about 35 years used in the same applications: plumbing, hydronics, cooling, and geothermal systems. And this is just a very short overview of it. It is the ultimate in performance. You're getting your cake and eating it too. And one of the things I like to say is when we talk about lower greenhouse gases, we put our money where our mouth is. So we did a comparison against how we produce our PEX at the plant, and PERT takes off about 250 cars a year for 1 million feet of pipe that we produce, and we produce tens of millions of pipe per month. So it adds up to a lot of cars per year. So we're very proud of that. Uh, we're certainly promoting that and making that known. So this is something that your team can use when you're looking at specific projects that you're trying to reduce your footprint, that you can lead with this along with some of your other products. Very highlight. So here's what we go to market with. Flexibility, easier and faster to install because of its doesn't have the crosslink uh, traits, especially for radiant in floor. It's very easy to lay down. If you've ever laid down PEX tubing across rebar, when you come around your loop, you tend to see the loop at the end, it pops up. With PERT, you don't have that issue. Recyclable, both the material and the bags that come in. And you can crimp, expand, or push, whichever you want. Push is typically for retail, but in our business, depending on where you're at, you'll see crimp or cold expansion. And we back up our product with a 25-year warranty on our tubing. Whether you use our fittings or not, we of course love you to use just our product, but as long as the fittings are made to the relevant ASTM standards, we will warranty that. And we do have our own internal quality control department that we send our products back to if there is any issues. Strength durability, built for extreme temperatures. One of the benefits of PERT I haven't really covered is it has the highest chlorine classification, meaning it can handle 100% chlorine in a recirculation line. Our PEX cannot do that. It's not in the same classification. Or no, sorry, ours does, but others don't have that classification. So if you're in a high chlorine area, PERT really lends itself well to that. And easy to identify, red, white, and blue is our potable. Green is proprietary to our Radiant. It is actually trademarked for us. And just going over the sizes, very similar. 100 foot, 250, 300, 500,000, 3/8 up to 2 inch for potable. Most common sizes are half, 3/4, and 1. But we do offer the larger sizes in coils and straight lengths. And like I said, for inventorying it, the straight lengths come in bags, color coordinated with your tubing, so it's easy to stock and pull out, so you don't have any mix-ups when you're delivering to your customer. And for our Radiant, same thing. It's only in green. The exception is for in-floor heating, 5/8 is a unique size for the Radiant tubing to give you some better flow versus the other sizes. And we stock this at all of our locations. We manufactured, like I said, in Surrey, but we send it to Calgary, to Ontario, and to Quebec, and we stock that there. And a little bit on our hydronics. We've been doing hydronics for 20 plus years. All the team members here are familiar with that. We've actually, the pictures we're showing here is using the Viper in our Mississauga location in the office space a few years ago. We also have internally, he's not on the call, but Gilles Legault. He is our hydronics manager. He's got a technologist background, has been around for a very long time and knows the in and outs and can turn around if you've had experience. If you have a contractor that wants to do a loop layout, get him the plans, he can turn that around really quickly. We're efficient. So you can get the material takeoff, You can get the loop layout so they know how to lay it out. So that's all available as part of our services to you and your customers. A little bit on our manifolds. We are the master distributor for Ivar. They are made in Italy. We've had a really strong showing with this with your company on this. It's been a wonderful growth product. Stainless steel manifolds, complete, one SKU in a box, easy for the contractor. Pull it out, screw it onto the wall or onto a stud, and you're ready to go. Come in two sizes, a 1-inch header and an 1.25-inch header. The 1.25-inch for high capacity, typically for snow melt. And what you're looking for in each of these, I'll show you if you can see my mouse, comes with a manual or a thermostatic valve that can be controlled by a thermostat. Your automatic air vents, so when you're commissioning the systems, you let the air out. Fill and drain ports, the same thing when you're filling it. Shut off valves if you ever have to do any maintenance to them or you're isolating. Your flow meters, part of your commissioning, and they act as isolation. So when you're doing an in-floor heating system, you do it one loop at a time. So you can set up the flow correctly, have all the other ones buttoned down, open the next one and continue on. It's real easy to do. And offsetting mounting brackets. So what that means is you can put it in a stud cavity. You can run the return tubing, which is the blue up here, up behind, and then the supply piping will be in the front, all within one cavity. And of course, temperature gauges, so you can see that you are getting flow through the loops, the supply and return temperature. And specific to the potable, it is our Viper potable is approved across Canada. I will make an exception, and Ken, if it's being adopted in BC as of March, the middle of March. It's in there right now for the part of the National Plumbing Code, Building Code for 2020. They have up to 6 months to adopt it, but it's in there now. Across Canada, it's approved, it's installed everywhere. The big thing you're looking for standards here is for all the tubing standards, whether it's ours or competitors, the mechanical properties and how it performs temperature pressure, it's an ASTM standard. So for this one, it's ASTM 2769. And a lot of times you'll see people saying, well, what's the CSA? So for PEX, it's 137.5. But down here, you'll see ours is 137.18. And that is basically mirroring the 137.5, but it's specific to PERT tubing. So performance-wise, everything else exactly the same or better, as I've said earlier. And the other thing you want to see for commercial properties is the S101. That just means that this tubing, like PEX, our sister product, is rated to be, it has a smoke and a flame development rating of 25 and 50 respectively. So it can be used in return plenums. And specific for our Vipert, our radiant, our oxygen barrier, very similar, has a smoke and flame development. The only difference is here is it is to the ASTM, but we purposely did not put it to the CSA potable water standard, our PEX is. And the reason for that is to get that and the NSF, you have to add something to it. It makes a pipe a lot stiffer. So we decided to, where this is primarily for radiant floor, we did not add that because it would make it stiffer. So the advantages is, and I swear to goodness, if your contractor hasn't tried this, if they put one coil in, they're going to say, sign me up. A little bit excited about that. And supporting product information, the marketing team here at Robinson, we've been working on this for a while. We're using a lot of this collateral out right now, but we've really been trying to increase our content. Our marketing team has been working very hard to get this going. So we have a variety of collateral you can use for your customers, for engineers, for whoever you want to see it, some basic product information, of course, your price list that your procurement side will be using, but we also have installation guides. And we even have a microsite on our webpage that focuses in on, for example, our hydronics business. And I'll be making this available. We'll be making this available to you afterwards, and the hyperlinks are active, so they'll redirect you to the web page, as well as our supporting technical documents for installing contractors, engineers, owners. We have all the associated paperwork for submittals, technical documents, master specs, and related to the installation of our product. We do have some videos on YouTube on how to install our tubing using cold expansion and how to calibrate a manifold, and we're developing more as we go along with our installation guide and our comprehensive installation guide in red and gray right here. So that's sort of an overview. I just want to give you a very quick update on what's going on with CB, then we'll open it up to questions. We just recently completed an update in December. This is our facility just before we started the work in the late fall. This is where the building's going. It was, we added about 14,000 square feet using tilt-up concrete construction. Here's a picture of the cranes tilting it up, and here's the structure in this picture here, and this is pretty well the building complete. Showing a picture from the inside. They're just cleaning up the floor and what it looks like from the front of the business. I know some of you have been at our plant. You certainly notice that coming in. It's all color coordinated with everything up now. And what this does for us, it just gives us some efficiencies at the plant, because our plant in BC is also our branch where we keep all of our inventory. So we've expanded our production lines quite a bit over the last few years, so it was getting a bit tight. So this is going to consolidate that, and we still have some work to do there. We're having a major power upgrade there, plus we're adding some inline efficiencies to our lines. We're anticipating that'll be done later this year. Last but not least, and Brian, I can see your face, the timing's impeccable, is we are very excited, if you haven't already seen, that the owners made a purchase of land about 8 minutes away from where we're at right now to put a new building. The building we're at right now is just leased. We own this property in the building. It's going to be 56,000 square feet. Brian, I think that's your new car out front waiting for you. And it can expand up to 90-some thousand. So better to serve the Alberta and the Midwest area where we're busting at the seams. Brian, Jordan, and the team have been managing really well, but we need to grow to support your efforts there. So that's where we're at right now. So we do own 3 of our facilities. Well, this one will be our 3rd. Bois de Fillon we do lease that, but we anticipate that will be next on the list in the next few years to get a little bit bigger. So with that, I will hand it over to, I'll stop sharing and open it up for questions. All right. I have one here. So is that okay? Are you there, Paul? Let's see.
I am. First question is coming in.
Okay. Is that on my messenger?
In your chat, you should see it now, but I'll read it to you.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. The question is, are there any specific tools or techniques required for the installation that differ from PEX?
Absolutely not. So it's built to the same standards, the same dimensional standards. So the tools that you're using for PEX can be used for crimp or push. Well, push, you don't need any tools, or cold expansion. So you can use the tools you're using. Typically for cold expansion, you'll see out in the market, Milwaukee, there's DeWalt, but Milwaukee seems to be the leader. And if you look at our installation videos, that's what it is as well.
Excellent. One's coming in. I think you've covered this off, but is PERT tubing compatible with existing PEX fittings?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the fittings are made to the same ASTM standard, so they're completely interchangeable, both the brass and the polyalloy, for either cold expansion, polyalloy fittings, or regular insert.
One more. How does PERT tubing perform in terms of durability and resistance to factors like chemical exposure or water quality?
Great question. Actually, it performs very well because of its properties. It actually outperforms PEX. especially if you have high chlorine areas. It has the highest chlorine classification, which PPI defines as 5. Our PEX, I think I mentioned earlier, is the same, but there are other manufacturers that only have a 3. So if you're using it as a recirculation line with high chlorine, you could potentially have stress cracking in other products.
Excellent. One in just now, if using other companies' fittings, brass or poly, will that affect the 25-year warranty?
It will not. And how we classify that is, say you have a leak, it's our pipe, someone else's fittings. We will obviously want to be involved, and this is for everybody, is get us involved as soon as you can. As soon as you have a problem, we want to resolve it. We don't want to point fingers. We want to get the situation right. And obviously safety and everything comes first. But what we will do is we will take the assembly back to the plant and we will look at it. And if it's not our fittings, we will assess through our quality control engineering department. We will see if it was the pipe, if there was a manufacturing defect, if it was an installation error, or it was site conditions, high temperature, low temperature, broken or whatever. But that's how we sort of look at it. The fittings, if they're made to code, shouldn't be any problem.
Great. We have a question from Greg.
Yeah.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, Greg.
Good. So I know we've had this discussion many times, but on the PERT with the approvals for BC, you mentioned March, but
yes,
and I know that's provincial code, or is it federal code? And does that impact if a municipality still doesn't want to make the change?
Well, no. So right now there's one community that's holding out, but it's supposed to go into effect. Ken knows what the date is, mid-March.
March 8th.
March 8th. So it's in there. It's going to be approved. It's up to the province if they adopt it on March 8th. They can extend it as much as 6 months, but after that they have to have it in place. It's like that all across Canada.
Okay.
Did I cover that off, Ken?
Yeah, the municipalities that have been holding out, waiting on this particular document. So after this document's released on March 8th, there's no more excuses. It's good to go, Greg.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Either through the chat or if you'll unmic yourself, you can ask us a question.
We have a question in Calgary.
Go ahead, Calgary.
It's Dale here. On the UV resistance, is that part of the on the Ultra, the 5306, kind of the UV part of it as well in the coating? On the Viper, is it 6 months, a year? What's the UV listing on that?
Well, for all of our products, even though our PEX says up to 6 months, if you look at all of our literature, we specifically say not to expose it to sunlight because it will degrade. Viper does not have a 6 month. No, it has basically a 1 month, but we clearly say do not expose it to UV.
I agree with that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Any questions? We've got a few minutes left.
Waiting for Jordan to send me a brain teaser.
There you go.
You got another one? I do have one. Yeah, I have one. Again, Dale here. On the radiant laydown for the tubing,
Yes.
on typical radiant design, you end up kind of putting the bulb in on a turn.
Mm-hmm.
The Viper radiant version, is that required, or just strictly it loops pretty quick and a tight radius?
Sorry, I didn't hear. Are you talking about the?
Yeah, the end turn when you're coming back, right, on a radiant design.
Yeah.
Typically, you're going to find on other manufacturers they end up putting kind of a, say, a 6-inch center. You end up bulbing out and coming back a little bit, like a light bulb end.
Yeah.
Your turn on the Viper, is it closer than that? Can you get a pretty tight 6-inch bend, or it's an 8-inch bend? Pretty tight.
You can do a 6-inch, yeah, for sure.
Okay, good.
You can do it easier too. And like I said, depending on the installer and if it's cold out, A lot of guys will put, if you're tying to the T-bar, the rebar, they'll put the wire on either end and halfway where the turn is going.
Yeah.
If it's warm enough, you might not have to with Vipert, but better be safe than sorry because you don't want it popping up when you're pouring the concrete. Doesn't look good when tubing sticking out of the concrete.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? We still have a few minutes left. No. We got one more from Greg. Do you have a question? I thought maybe your hand was up. No. Okay.
That's good. Okay.
Well, Mike, and everyone, if there are no more questions, I'm going to turn it over to Mike for final words. I will put in our contact us link in the chat so you can reach out to us, and I'll also attach the presentation that Mike just took us through. So on my behalf, thank you very much, and also on CB Supplies. Mike, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Reach out. You have all your territory managers' contact information, or reach out to me and myself.